Hi, this is George Ortega for Free Will Science and Religion. I'm here with Chandler Klebs, Mitch J, and Jamie Soden. And today we're going to explore this kind of a question we have. In other words, like one of the correlates of our not having free will is that it's wrong, it's actually immoral, it's illogical for us to blame ourselves or anyone else for anything, because we don't have a free will. We're compelled to do what we do and to not do what we don't do. So then the question arises, if we can't logically blame ourselves and each other for these acts, these like immoral acts, who or what do we blame? Or is it possible that there's actually nothing to blame? So, like, before I offer my response to it, let's go around and kind of like consider what some of you guys think. Mitch, what's your answer to this question?
I personally am focused on reality. I care about the truth. I think there are problems in this world. And in order to solve problems, we need to honestly investigate them. So, if there is a looming threat to human civilization, and we are not honest about the looming threat, we will succumb to the threat and we will perish. So, that is one of the reasons why I'm a huge proponent of honesty. I'm also a compassionate person. I care about being moral. So, to answer your question, I'm in reality. I care about what is true, and that is it.
Well, all right, but Mitch, I mean, so like again, the question is like, if we're not responsible as human beings for the immorality that we do,
Yes, yes,
do
yes. Yeah, so, right. So, no. The simple answer is this: no one is responsible for anything. The word responsibility doesn't make any sense. We have a deterministic reality, it's just cause and effect. People are always searching for someone to blame, for something to blame. But the truth, the reality that we live in, if we investigate the issue honestly, is that there is no one to blame. There are causes, but there is no blame. Blame is just something human beings do. Maybe in the
oh,
past we thought it was necessary for society or whatever, but now we've matured as people. There's a lot of great thinkers have investigated, including yourself, George, have as a Chandler. We've investigated the issue of free will. We know it's bogus, and we can move on. We no longer need to blame anyone. We don't need to blame people. We don't need to blame the universe.
so I want to get a bit more into that. But before I do, Chandler, what's your take on this? If what we do that is wrong is not our fault, is there anything or anyone to blame?
Well, here's what's very interesting about it, George, is that, for example, back when I was still some kind of a Christian or a deist or something like that, what I did was blame God. It was a simple solution at the time, you know what I mean? That was what I did because it was certainly easier to blame God for creating humans to be stupid rather than to blame those humans. However, when you think about it logically, like I finally came, of course, now I don't believe in like that kind of God anyway, but I start thinking about it and, well, wait a minute. Um, how can God or the universe, if you will, have any more of a free will, any more ability to be blamed than any human or other animal or plant or single cell or whatever? So I've come to the conclusion that there's no way that anything blameworthy could exist. So what I'm saying is, even if a type of God or deity did exist, it would still not be blameworthy.
Okay, all right, and again, then Jamie, what's your take on this? Like, if what we do that is wrong isn't like we're not blameworthy for it, do we blame God? Do we blame anything at all? Is there anything to blame?
Um, we can attribute it to cause and effect. Whatever's causing the problem, you attribute your frustrations or your dislike or whatever it may be to whatever is causing pain and suffering.
Okay, well, so let me give you my take then, having heard your views, and I actually agree with you. I agree that it's as wrong to blame God or the universe for the immorality in the world as it is to blame ourselves, but my reasoning is a bit different, and I can't say I'm completely satisfied with it. And basically the idea behind this is that, like, okay, if we posit the world naturalistically, in terms of like the universe and the Big Bang, then we could say that the Big Bang caused everything, that happens after that, through this causal process. And so again, like, we could ascribe responsibility for the evil to the Big Bang, logically, in the sense if something that we're defining as wrong happened, then the initial cause, would be quote unquote responsible. But the problem with that is that, like, logic tells me that the Big Bang did not arise from nothing, that it was caused. We have no idea what caused the Big Bang, but logic tells us it was caused. And logic also tells us that this chain of cause and effect, that, like, whatever caused the Big Bang was also caused, and that was caused. So you have this chain of cause and effect, not only stretching back from the immoral act that we did to the Big Bang, but it's also stretching from the Big Bang eternally into the past. And so, like, the reason why I can't logically ascribe quote unquote blame or accountability to the universe is because we never get to the point where, the universe decided, well, I'm going to, like, make this wrong happen. Because again, if the causal chain regresses eternally into the past, we can never reach that point. And so, like, I use the same argument with God. If we view God as eternal, we never reach a point where God said, well, like, I'm going to make these people or this person do this thing wrong, so, like, I'm therefore responsible. Again, this causal chain regresses back eternally. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, that's fine, but I don't believe the universe is conscious. So even if I attribute blame to the universe, I'm not attributing blame to anybody really. It's just unfortunate if bad things happen to people, and through our hedonic imperative, we go towards pleasure and avoid pain. We make efforts to prevent whatever is bad happening next time.
I mean, I'm going to be blunt here. You might not like what I'm going to say, but I guess this is the platform for that. I think it's nonsense to say the universe is conscious, personally. I don't think it's a meaningful, coherent statement. I understand why you want to say it. I understand that to be a human being, there's more to it. Or at least we want to feel like it's not, it's discomforting to feel like all we are is the sum of a bunch of influences. But that is the truth. That is the reality. That doesn't mean we can't enjoy life. It doesn't mean we can't have moments of wonder and awe and everything like that. But I am not the kind of person that likes to just come to conclusions, especially when there is no evidence to suggest it. Consciousness is a very, very confusing thing. We don't fully understand it. But our best evidence says that it's a product of having a brain. It's just a byproduct of being alive and having a sophisticated enough brain. You become aware. Trying to
Okay.
attribute awareness to non-living things or things that do not possess brains, that doesn't seem like there's any reason to suggest that it's true.
All right, Mitch, before I address that, Chandler, what's your take? Is the universe conscious? What's the evidence?
Yeah, what's very interesting about it is that I think it's reasonable to, since consciousness is awareness, I generally tend to think that there's a certain level of awareness at the cellular level, and this would apply to, in some level, even plants, and certainly to animals before their brain has.
How so? How so? How is there consciousness at the cellular? I really don't understand what we're talking about right now.
Before we answer that, let's agree on a definition of consciousness. Can we agree that consciousness is fundamentally awareness?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Chandler.
Yeah, see, I would have to say that the way things work At least, and I don't know if I can say that the whole universe is conscious exactly, but I think that there's something to be made for the idea of plants and their roots, the way they search and dig out the nutrients, and the way that a sperm swims toward an egg, and weird stuff like that, that implies that they are aware of the presence of things and the way the immune system responds, and how they develop when there's a vaccine of a certain virus or bacteria or whatever. They develop the immune system, the cells, like they become resistant to it and build up an immunity to it. So they have to be aware that that disease is there in order to do that. So I'm just meaning.
I disagree with the usage of the word aware. I
All right. Well,
think they're
so
just
so
doing the function that they do, and they have the minimum amount of information needed to carry out a task because they're simpler organisms that are
all right.
Just
just doing the
So
task
Mitch.
they
So
do.
all right, Mitch. But where we are now, we have to like again agree on a definition of consciousness. So like you're saying, it's not just awareness. So how would like our awareness as human beings differ from a cell, for example, being aware of a particle of food outside of it and then engulfing it to digest it? How is our awareness of our environment different from the cells?
can I just address that? Well, first, as we know it in science, to have consciousness, you need a complex nervous system. Otherwise, it comes down to detecting and non-detecting. Like, for example, you know how software works in computers. Like, an antivirus can detect, like, viruses and stuff if it has, a database of what viruses are. Just because it can detect something doesn't mean it's conscious, and we can apply that to single cells and plants and stuff like that. Now they don't have nerves, but they can detect things because they have.
Okay, Mitch.
Yeah, I think you're going to be disappointed if I respond because again, as I said in my opening, I know, like I'm aware that there is a lot of scientific investigation being done about the nature of consciousness. I am aware that philosophers have been debating this issue for a long time. But
Mhm.
again, I see a lot of parallels to the mystery, the so-called mystery of consciousness, that I do to belief in God and that I do to free will belief. I think what we need to be is honest about the things we know and the things we don't know. The word consciousness is barely even a coherent thing. When we say human beings are consciously aware of something, what we mean is when they're awake and in their usual state of mind, there is a certain avenue of information, thoughts, images, a channel of information, a painting on a wall that we kind of see in our minds. And sometimes our actions are consistent with the images that we see and the feelings that we have. And that is what we call being conscious. So clearly, this word should not be appropriate when we're talking about organisms that we know for a fact are incredibly, incredibly simple and do not have the ability to process all the information that we have. I understand that the universe is a mysterious place. I appreciate awe and wonder and joy. I appreciate life, but I don't feel any need to make philosophical claims to things that I don't have scientific backing to support.
Okay, Chandler, I'm sorry, you wanted to say something before?
Yeah, well, see, what's particularly interesting is I think that when we're talking about, consciousness being awareness, um, you know, I think George and I are perhaps using it in a slightly more broad sense than other people might mean when they talk about consciousness, because they have this distinction in humans of when somebody's awake as compared to when they're asleep, and they have the term, the unconscious brain, part of the brain that's still active even when you are asleep. But my thing is that even what we call the unconscious is still a consciousness, but it's one that we're not aware of almost all the time. If that makes any sense to a
But I get your point. Here's what I'm saying. Let's be honest about what we're doing. What we're doing is we're trying to make the universe. We're trying to add, when we investigate consciousness. When I say we, I mean human beings. What we're doing, and we're not openly admitting it. Maybe we will from this point on. Is we are trying to add an additional element of spirituality to the universe. Because if not, we could just use a different word. And
Well,
by continuing to use the same word, there's a reason we're doing it, because we want to link what simple organisms or even or even non-living things, how the universe operates. We want to make some link between that and how, when humans are aware, how we perceive the world around us, so we can feel more engaged, so we can feel like we're a bigger part of the picture,
all
like
right,
the
Mitch, I understand.
universe
Let
is
me
a,
address this issue from a
right.
different perspective, a different argument for universal consciousness that takes the root of intelligence. Now, in other words, like, can we agree that we human beings do things that are intelligent? We'll write a sentence down on a piece of paper and we'll, label or designate that sentence as an act of intelligence. So, like, can we agree that basically we define what's intelligent based on its expression, how the behavior that's manifest? Okay, so if we can agree on that, then here's the thing: the most complex structure of which we're aware in the universe is the human brain. Now, the human brain is responsible for all acts of human intelligence, but the problem for us is that we didn't create the human brain. In other words, like, the universe, as far as we know, starting with the Big Bang, cause by cause by cause, in the same way our human brain works, caused that human brain to be created. So in other words, like, it just wouldn't make sense for me to attribute intelligence to a human brain and not to attribute intelligence to the entity that created the human brain. And then, like, if we agree on that, can we agree that if something is intelligent, if we can define something as intelligent, then by definition that must also be conscious?
I strongly disagree with that. I think that's a syllogism. I don't think. If I use a tool to perform an action, that does not mean the tool has the properties of that action. If I use a tool to do something, I can't use the product. I can't compare the product to the tool I use to create that product and say it must have characteristics that are related to the product. Just because we human beings have created a word called intelligent, and we say it's because we have a brain, we can do intelligent things. Just because we recognize an action as an action that requires intelligence does not mean the cause and effect nature of reality is intelligent. I think that's
Well,
I see a gap
Mitch,
in the logic here.
I agree with
Yeah.
your analogy of, like, the tool, the pen that we use to write down what we write isn't intelligent because naturally we're guiding it. But I would use that same example, an argument, to say that our intelligence, because we don't have a free will, isn't ours. It actually belongs to the Big Bang or the universe, and we're as much an instrument of this Big Bang as a pen is of our human brain.
That's where I strongly disagree. I think the word intelligence does not become meaningful until the end of that chain. And I think the sequence of events that led to that has not related whatsoever to the property of intelligence. So I don't go because of the Big Bang and all the things that happened, blah 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 blah, that eventually allowed us to be intelligent. Clearly the universe itself is intelligent. No, I disagree. Not only it's not even just the word. I disagree with what are you trying to accomplish when you're saying that? What does that even mean? So let
Okay.
me play devil's advocate here. Let's say I agree with you. What am I agreeing to? What are
Well,
we even
actually,
talking about?
Mitch, before I go into that, I just wanted to get Chandler's and Jamie's view of where we are so far. Chandler?
Yeah, see, I think part of the problem is, once again, just like with consciousness, now we're struggling with this word intelligence, and until we get this basic idea of what it means for something to be intelligent or conscious down, then yeah, we're gonna definitely disagree on this issue. But I tend to think of like, and I'm not so sure that I go as far as the whole universe being intelligent, but I generally think that if any organism, even very small at the cellular level, is aware enough to do an action. You know what I mean? It has to be aware of something to a certain extent to respond to its environment. It means it's aware of its environment. So right now, I'm not even arguing so much the intelligence, but just the awareness and the reaction.
Okay, Jamie?
Um, excuse me. Can you repeat sorry, I've been keeping up.
All right,
Sorry.
so to encapsulate,
I don't know what we're talking about either.
no, here's the thing. So, like, basically, we tend to attribute intelligence to our human actions based on the behavior, the manifestation. We write a sentence and we say that was an intelligent sentence. We create a computer and we say, that's an expression of intelligence. Now, our problem is that because we don't have a free will, we can't attribute that intelligence to us because basically we're just a cog or a link in this chain of cause and effect that regresses back to before we were born and ultimately back to the Big Bang. So, just as our human brain
So even
uses
our
this.
opinions are not up to us.
Say that again?
So even our opinions are not up to us.
Well, of course. So,
George,
like,
I got something for you. Sorry to interrupt you, but
all
I
right,
just got an idea. I just want to get off my chest. Let's say you're looking at a chair, and the chair is black. It is a black chair. What are we talking about when we talk about the property of the color of the chair, the black chair?
okay, that's a good point. So
This, yes. Go ahead.
all right, but the chair is black, but
Mhm.
like, did the chair make itself black, or
Exactly.
right? So, like, are
But
we saying
what?
that it did or didn't?
Here's the point that I'm trying to make. Here's what we know. We know the chair is black. We don't need to manifest these notions such as blackness and say that blackness is a property of the universe that got transferred to the chair and the universe is responsible for the blackness of the chair. The chair is a black chair. That's all the reality. The chair is made up of a certain kind of material. And when light bounces off of this material due to the properties of the material that the chair is composed of, light bounces in a certain way. When it hits my eyes, when it hits your eyes, the brain interprets that information. It takes the wavelength, and because of that particular wavelength, or because of the fact that it's absorbing so many different kinds of light, it looks black. That's all there is. We don't need to create more to explain that. All that's
All right,
necessary to say is that the chair is black.
all right, but
You
Mitch,
don't have
but
to
wait a
talk
minute.
about the mystical inherited properties of being black.
Right, but no, no, wait a minute. In other words, like, like, just as we human beings are not the quote unquote authors of our intelligent acts, I don't think we could say that the chair is the author of its blackness. Both
Agreed,
right.
right?
So, but
I'm saying it's our struggle. I'm saying the struggle here is wanting to say author. We don't need the word author. All we need to say is that the chair is black. Any other endeavor in terms of cause and effect, in terms of properties of the universe that are being transferred, this is wishful thinking. This is human dissatisfaction, human
all right,
curiosity.
Mitch, but all right, I understand your philosophy and all,
Okay.
but basically, like, let's say we replace the word authored with cause. I think, like, when we're referring to an intelligent act that human beings do, I think we can say that the human being caused the intelligent act, but of course, there was a cause to us causing it. So in that same way, we could say that, like, you know the the universe caused the chair and caused the chair to be black. So in both cases, it's the universe causing both our intelligent act and the chair and its blackness. So, like, and so then, like, again, like, if we relate that to the matter of intelligence, um how can we not say that the Big Bang or whatever preceded, and ultimately it just regresses to where it transcends logic, but that this causal chain of events that, as far as we know, began with the Big Bang, is the cause of every intelligent act in the universe thereafter.
What I'm suggesting is that we simply do not say the universe is intelligent.
Well,
That's
Well,
yeah,
I know
we
that, I
just
know, Mitch, but
let's,
and I know why you're saying
let's,
that, because you're saying
right.
that because like religion, our modern religions are, they're basically prophecy based. In other words, they are founded on this understanding or belief that like some guy a few thousand years ago said this about God, that said this about the universe, and so this is so. And
You
like
said
I'm completely against that kind of religion because I think it's harmful. I think it's misguided. I think it's wrong. But like so I think that's when you don't want to attribute intelligence to the universe. That's and I agree with you. But my thinking is that like it'll be pretty impossible or very very difficult to move humanity from belief in God in general, because it's so ingrained in us. So what I'm hoping we could do is to shift humanity from a prophecy based belief in God to a more scientific logical belief in God that again doesn't include any of the biblical stuff, because this is
yeah.
like so yeah, so that would be the. You asked before, what would be the purpose of this kind of understanding, right?
Well, here's the deal. I want to jump in a little bit here because I kind of agree and disagree with both George and Mitch in a certain way. Like, for example, I think Mitch's skepticism is good, and that not wanting to necessarily, make any claim or make any statements that he can't actually know and prove and all that. I mean, I think that's good. But at the
I'd say
same
the same thing about rebirth because I can't prove rebirth, but I do believe it's possible. But I won't claim to know that it's
uh,
fact or whatever. I'm just saying it's possible through law of conservation because energy cannot be destroyed.
Yeah. Well, but see, at the same time, I have to, I have to say that I think what George is doing is kind of cool here because there's a big difference between, teaching a religious belief which we know is false, which we know is incoherent, can't be true, which is why we're all in the business of refuting free will. But when it comes to the intelligence or consciousness of the universe, I mean, you might say that I would be afraid to rule out something that might be true, if that makes
Okay,
sense.
Chandler, you're getting a bit of an echo. I'm going to throw another wrench into this. Remember how we were saying that, like, because the causal chain of events regresses back to before the Big Bang and regresses back eternally, we can't logically blame the universe for anything. This actually applies to intelligence also. In other words, like, you know, because we don't have a free will, the intelligence that we quote unquote manifest or express really isn't ours. But if this chain of cause and effect regresses back eternally and never stops going back in time, we never reach a point where the universe decided that it was going to, like, initiate this intelligent act. So, like, I'm not sure it's completely satisfactory, but I think what I'm saying is, just like there's no morality, no fundamental responsibility in the universe, there's no fundamental intelligence, and that's not completely satisfactory, but logic seems to compel it.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're almost at 32 minutes. We've it's gone back and forth about a black chair in the universe and all this stuff. And it's so interesting. But I think we'll have to continue this in future episodes because man, we are getting in this too big.
It's a good topic.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Uh, Thank you, Mitch J, Chandler Klebs, Jamie Soden. This is George Ortega for Free Will, Science, and Religion. We'll be back again and again to kind of like explore the implications of our not having a free will, because they are profound, and they basically relate to the entirety of existence. Okay, thanks for listening.